Finally, watching a classic after reading and hearing about it for so many years offers a different perspective from those that have lived and loved the film for their entire lives. It's an informed perspective that takes into account prior awareness and cultural context. Does this film live up to its status? Does it live up to the hype? My guest today is Carlin Trammel. I first met Carlin through his James Pod podcast, which proclaims to be a show about James Bond, but in reality is odd performance art. I found this incredibly refreshing. Carlin Trammel is the host of two other podcasts, most notably Nerd Lunch, a weekly discussion show which offers creative ideas for pop culture, such as the Pop Culture Eraser. Carlin also hosts the Dragonfly Ripple podcast, a show where he and a friend discuss their nerdy interests with their kids. You can get to all of his stuff through nerdlunch.net. Today, Carlin is brave enough to come on this podcast and talk about the shameliest of shames. I hope you too are prepared to answer the age-old question. Do you take the gun or do you take the cannoli? Welcome to Cinema Shame, the podcast.
Yeah, I was hoping to watch it all in one setting, but I can't even watch, like, with kids going to bed later and later, I can't even watch them, like, short movies in one setting, so.
So what you're saying is you're reduced to sitcoms and laugh tracks? Is that where we're headed here?
Well, I watch movies, like, in the style of episodic television, so it's like watching a mini-series or something.
Do you have someone come in and do on the next episode of The Godfather?
Previously. Well, that's usually I'll do more of the previously. I'll be like, where was I? I was right there. Yeah, okay.
Well, you do what you have to do with kids. It becomes an adventure. Even movie watching becomes an adventure.
That's right.
All right. So I came to you because I thought you would be a good guest to have on while we figured out the format for Cinema Shame.
Okay.
I had all these ideas about how to structure the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to have a different dynamic with the first few episodes. And I've been on your show.
Yep.
And now you're on this. I don't know if it's fair trade.
I may be winning here.
I think so. But when I first proposed this to you, I had no idea that we were going to get a doozy quite like The Godfather.
Yeah, it was the first. Well, I don't know if you want to say this. Are we on the show now? Are we doing it, or is this pre-talk?
There's no beginning and end. There's always shame. So I don't want to limit the conversation by beginning and ending.
I see.
There is just conversation. Okay.
Yeah, when you first approached me, this probably was the first movie that came to mind. But as you know, we went back and forth. I didn't immediately say, "Oh yes, I have one. Here's the one." I held off for a while because of the shame of not having seen this series.
Well, the shame is palpable. That's why I wanted to start Cinema Shame. It's like the group therapy for movie lovers, because there are just some movies that you can't admit. They're the movies that you're in conversation, they come up and you just pretend. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. And like the hotlines. Take the gun. Leave the gun. Take the cannoli. Like
Yeah, you know that an offer. Make him an offer he can't refuse. Absolutely. Certain things become a part of the pop culture zeitgeist, and you just know it somehow because so many things are based off of it. So you've seen The Simpsons that's kind of like it, or you've seen whatever that's, or even scenes, just recap scenes or shows that show clips of famous movies and things. So you get a sense of it, but you haven't seen the whole thing put together. You don't know what it all means.
And it's also hard to muster up the enthusiasm for a movie you feel like you've seen through outtakes and clips as well. It's just not there's no curiosity And I think that is as much as impetus to watch a film as, more so than what you know about it.
Yeah, and I think it does take something like this or podcasting. I think we've done this on my show where because there's an aspect of, does it live up to the hype? When you have a movie like this, it's on the AFI Top 100 at the number 3 spot.
Number 2 now.
Is it number 2 now? Last I checked, it moved
up in the 2007 re-rankings.
So number 2, you get to a point where, okay, I haven't seen this. It's 45 years old. I still haven't seen it. And I don't know if it can live up to the hype. And so we kind of, through being able to look forward to the discussion and the conversation and putting ourselves in this situation, it does become a curiosity again. But I think it takes something like this because it wasn't natural. It wasn't going to happen on its own.
Because you offered up what first? I forget. When I first asked you.
Oh, so it's not just once. It's the cinema shames. It's multiple shames on the podcast. I have to give it all up.
I was just curious to see where we went with this first before The Godfather became the go-to.
We talked about the different formats, and I think something that was on your list of favorites that I had not seen is very similar. It's a shame. I don't even know if it's really a shame. I don't know if you'll feel shame on this one. I have not seen The Big Lebowski.
I think it counts. I believe we've had people write about Big Lebowski for the website.
I can see where, because of how it does seem to be now part of the cultural, so many quotes from it and such, I can see where it's a shame. It's never appealed to me. The movie has never grabbed me as something I want to see.
I mean, I could go off on a whole Coen Brothers tangent here, but I have to refrain because there's 3 hours of The Godfather to discuss. and potentially the spin-off episode for Godfather Part 2.
Yes, because that
is equally shameful.
I have not seen any of them, so I want to see. And now I want to see 2, and I want to see 3, despite what I've heard about it.
Well, you got to go through.
I got to finish it.
You got to finish it. Now, was there any particular reason why The Godfather just escaped you for so long?
There's a lot of movies that escape me. I think the primary reason for so long was that growing up, I was not allowed to see R movies or movies with certain kinds of content. I wouldn't say like I was super protected, but I was fairly protected as a child. And so I was not exposed to The Godfather, even if it was on TV or anything like that. And then, it gets to a point where, I don't know. I guess I get to a point where I just wasn't interested in it. I wasn't, I knew it was around, but it just didn't seem like, particularly being like a science fiction kind of fan. There are no aliens in this. There's no vampires or anything. So I never reached out to me in my youth because it didn't seem cool. And then I think like we were just talking about it, I got into a window where now it's been too late. Now it's gone too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a real effect. You wait so long, a movie is just it loses its interest. It's like I think you feel this phenomenon as well on a smaller scale. You're excited to go see a movie in the theater, and maybe it doesn't work out that you can go that first weekend, and you're still trying to go that second weekend, and by the third weekend you're just like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. And this has happened on a much bigger scale. Yeah.
I think so. I think for me, I mean, that is applicable in a lot of ways, especially in modern day. With if you don't see a movie opening weekend and you spend any time on social media, then you are rolling the dice on it getting spoiled for you, and that's kind of what we were just talking about with The Godfather. I mean, it's been 45 years. I have no excuses. There were certain aspects of this movie that were spoiled for me. Largely, I mean, altogether it wasn't, but there are certain lines or scenes that's like, I know that's going to happen because I just know. Somehow I inherently knew. I don't even know why I knew. But yeah, so the spoiler aspect, I mean, you get to that way with movies now. If you don't go to see it opening weekend, and you're not plugging your ears and closing your eyes on social media, then, you're going to have some crazy line or, some awesome scene spoiled for you. Just there's going to be some GIF already of it in Twitter. And so then when that happens, and maybe not for everybody, but for me, then it's like, well, great, that one little thing, that one little moment of enjoyment I was looking forward to, that's been taken from me.
Mm-hmm. And with something this big, go back to our format decision we had mentioned earlier. Like for the Cinema Shame podcast, I have a number of different agendas or timelines based on how we're going to run the show. There's shared shame, where we each watch the same movie. There's the individual shame, when the focus is all on my guest's shame, which is my favorite kind of episode, because I get to point at them and go, "What's wrong with you?" No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not that evil.
No,
I'm not.
We can. That'll save me some therapy bills if we can figure that out.
Well, I feel like it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
And then there's further down the line. We'll get to those eventually. But this is what we were looking at when we first decided on an episode. And then when I heard that, your confession that you hadn't seen The Godfather, immediately we knew the direction this show needed to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's the shame too. I mean, I think I've been a podcaster where we talk about movies for several years now, and I know I can hear one person who's been a guest on our show. I can hear him say to me, if he learned of this, "You call yourself a movie fan and you haven't ever seen The Godfather?" So there is this credibility factor. There's almost like a list of movies. If you haven't checked off all these movies, then you can't say you're a movie fan.
No, that's true. These lists, the AFI lists, the BFI lists, they're built-in shame. Like, these are the movies that you have to watch. Martin Scorsese came out with that list a couple of years ago. These are the movies you have to watch, and everybody jumped on that. Well, I've seen all of these movies. Well, I've seen all but one. I'm going to go fix that. And there was a drive to completism.
Yeah.
Especially with these shorter lists and the AFI list, which is 100. People wanted to mark off all their boxes, and you just couldn't even get started. So we're going to take care of that for you. This is what Cinema Shame does.
It's a service.
I'd like to tell you a few facts about The Godfather before we get started. So The Godfather debuted on March 15th, 1972. It made $133 million at the box office. Consider the breadth that $133 million reflects in 1972. How many people went to see that? Adjusted for inflation, that's close to $800 million. That's just domestic.
Yeah.
If you look at the past year as some sort of indicator about where our box office is, which I don't think it was a tremendous year for those blockbuster, zeitgeisty films. The number one film at the box office was Finding Dory, which only made $486 million. So that's where The Godfather was. And for a time, it was the highest grossing film at the box office.
It's interesting too because, and those are great comparisons because the Godfather's a rated R movie. This is not a family friendly film in any way. And as I was looking up information on the backstory, I was reading that the studio wanted more violence and more. Like there was actually an earlier cut that didn't have as much, or there was, or in production there wasn't as much gore and violence, and they wanted more of that in there. And you always think, well, then the family-friendly movies are going to be the big hit. And here we have a comparison of Godfather having done twice as much in 72 than Finding Dory did just last year.
And this is also something that I'm going to recall back to the Police Academy episode I just recorded. And I'm a big fan of Police Academy, but it is not a film that has aged well. I don't think there's much argument there. When you look at that film, it was number one at the box office for 5 of its first 6 weeks. It was only interrupted by Friday the 13th, somewhere in the middle. And that movie made $80 million in 84 as an R-rated comedy. And that's just something that's unheard of now. And adjusted, that's in the 150 range. it's just the nature of the way we view movies has shifted so dramatically in the last 30 years that I don't think there will ever be another Godfather that will capture the imaginations of such a large segment of the population. This movie was put on television almost uncut. I think about 16 months after its release, in order to build anticipation for part 2. Could you even imagine that happening now?
On network television? No.
On network, aired on NBC. Almost
no, I could not
uncut.
imagine that now.
An R-rated film.
What would have been? What I guess I don't know because there was a lot of I don't know, 3 or 4 scenes of some gore. You know, a guy getting a bullet in his head, and I can't even think there wasn't a whole lot else. I mean, I don't even know really what you would cut from this.
There's some violence. There's not. The guy got shot in the head. The horse head.
The horse head, yeah. I wonder if that was cut. That's a pretty big. That's one of those zeitgeist kind of things too.
Yeah.
You know, that's a joke. I remember Letterman doing monologues with that as a gag. Actually, one thing that was kind of funny was I'm watching this over the last couple of nights. One night I watched the scene where Michael's first wife is killed in the car explosion. Then the next morning I wake up and I'm watching some YouTube clips of the previous night's Colbert monologue. He plays that very clip in his monologue as though he knew I needed to say, you know, this confirmation, like, oh, hey, now you can get this joke. Now this is for you, Carlin.
Just think of all the laughs you're going to have now because you've watched.
Yeah, I'll get so many more jokes.
I know. And, you know, side note about the horse head, that was a real horse head.
Yeah, I read that.
Which is super creepy. But they
I hate to be that actor.
That's the thing. They did it to shock him. Like, suddenly you don't get that fake horse head, and, you know, I mean, at what point do you realize, that's real? Like, then it's not just really great practical effects.
I don't know.
Poor guy.
Seemed like, I was just reading about it. There was a few things like that where there was some real genuine feeling, or they were trying to capture something that was real rather than just the acting. Like, I guess James Caan would actually pick up some foreign objects that weren't expected and really elicit some true fear from whoever he was beating on, that kind of thing.
See, I like that about James Caan. I believe that he would really frighten me in real life, too.
I think he would.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I don't think he even needs any props for that.
I don't happen to trust people. I sort of figured if you thought I was weak, you'd mop the street up with me. Then I'd have to kill a lot more of your people to put you in your place. Send your boys in. I'll send them back in a paper bag.
Many scream about a homicide, but when I came to shut them down, all the drama died. I bleed insanity when I got a jam on me, and we roll like the Corleone family. I bring the boys that'll bring the noise, and the aftermath, everything's destroyed. Like a crew of barbarians, and brothers that want beef, I make them vegetarians.
So in the Cinema Shame podcast, I've taken to finding quotes from critics that might inspire further conversation. And today I found this particular comment from Pauline Kael's contemporary review of The Godfather that I think might do the trick. She says, "A hack director solves the problem of pacing by making only a few points and making those so emphatically that the audience can hardly help getting them. This is why many of the movies from the studio system days are unspeakably insulting. The tendency of a clever, careless director is to go too fast, assuming that he's made everything clear when he hasn't." She goes on later to say, yet full as it is, The Godfather goes by evenly, so we don't feel rushed or restless either. There's classic grandeur to the narrative flow. Coppola's openness is a reflection of the exploratory sense of complexity. He doesn't feel the need to comment on what he shows us, and he doesn't want to reduce the meanings in a shot by pushing us this way or that. The assumption behind this film is that complexity will engage the audience.
Yeah, I think that's a good summation, because I think even from shot one of Godfather, like that's the, we were just talking about how, well, I like this. And I would say I knew within the first 3 minutes I was going to like this movie. And it's just this, the camera's zooming out on this undertaker who's talking to Don, who Marlon Brando's character,
Don Corleone,
Don Corleone, and he's explaining the situation about was it his daughter or some sort of situation, and the camera's just slowly zooming out as he's telling the story, and you're starting so close on him, but then by the time you get out wider, you're enraptured into this story he's telling, but you're also wondering who's in the room and what's going on, and who's the back of the head that we're seeing, and it's making this simple thing very complex, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's the visual tapestry of that scene that I find so engaging. I've put on The Godfather just idly a couple times because I love watching that scene. The muted colors to reflect the time period, the darkness of the scene, the way that the shadows play on Brando's face. What we're doing in this first scene is establishing the entire nature of the mafia business in 3 minutes.
Well, the rules.
Right, the rules. Everything is laid out with this first scene. Loyalty, friendship. What have you done for me? Do you respect me? And have you respected me?
What can you do for me later?
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. And it's this web. And you, before we even see anything more than these two characters, one of them, clearly one of the primary characters in Marlon Brando's Don Corleone, and then this tertiary character who is really there, who's in a bind asking for a favor, there's this constant theme of fairness and equality, and it's an interesting venue because you're looking at this mafia family that is all about vengeance, but at the same time, they truly believe an eye for an eye.
Yeah, there's definitely that. Yeah, the escalation factor comes into play, and I think that's once Don Corleone is out of the picture for a bit, then he's not able to control, because I think there is an aspect of him. He feels like things should be fair. He feels as though there's a balance that he has to maintain, and once he's not there to maintain that balance, that's when things get out of whack.
Right. When the kids take control, then it starts to spiral out of control, and we lose that balance.
Yeah.
And I think it's also interesting to understand where this movie came from. Mario Puzo wrote this book as, he called it Beneath His Talents. Like, he wrote it to make money. He considered it a trash novel. And Coppola said that he originally didn't take the job because he couldn't finish the book. He took the job eventually because he was indebted to Warner Brothers and needed cash. Right. That is the only reason. And to be fair, he wasn't anywhere near Paramount's first choice to direct the film either. They went to something like 14 directors before him, which is astounding. You have this image of The Godfather being Coppola's masterpiece, and he didn't want to do it, and Paramount didn't want him to do it.
Yeah, it makes you think about what are those things that I don't want to do on a daily basis. If I could just make those things The Godfather.
They wanted an Italian a director to do it. Sergio Leone was the first one they went to, and he was making Once Upon a Time in America and didn't want to take away from his project. So, they went on down a massive list of directors before Coppola. Even Peter Bogdanovich was mentioned on that list. And can you imagine The Godfather directed by Peter Bogdanovich?
We would not probably be doing this podcast right now.
Not likely. Burt Reynolds may have been in it. Ryan O'Neal definitely would have been in it.
Yeah, I saw that. I was reading that Burt Reynolds was on one of the lists to play Michael. I can't even imagine that.
And I believe one of the producers wanted Ryan O'Neal because of his success in Love Story. Naturally, Love Story was such a hit. We'll cast him in The Godfather.
Maybe he could have been Sonny. I don't know. I can't even think who he would have been.
I actually don't remember what he was rumored to be. I think it was Pacino's character. Yeah. They didn't want Pacino either. The studio was butting heads with Coppola on every decision. It's amazing this movie got made. I believe it's probably all attributable to Brando, who threatened to walk off set if Coppola was fired.
Yeah, I was trying to. I didn't go back and look at the. There's a lot of big names who feel like they're big now. As I'm watching this, it's like, oh, it's Pacino, it's Gallagher. There's some people I'd forgotten that were even in it, and I didn't go back to see at what point they would have been big names. Was this the movie that made Pacino? Was this the movie that made James Caan? That I didn't really look into.
Pacino hadn't done anything. That was the reason the studio didn't want him. He had been in a couple small films at this point, but there was nothing major. And I think they kind of considered him a pain in the ass. I don't think anybody wanted anything to do with him at the time, because he certainly didn't have any box office credibility. They were going after big names for all these roles, and Coppola was really going against all of their wishes at every turn.
Yeah. So
this really is Coppola's movie, and we go back to the nature about it not being rushed. These scenes unfold without really any. I don't want to say it lacks an agenda, but they are. The pacing is languid. It melds from scene to scene, and the urgency is in the characters itself rather than the form.
Just here's a series of things about them, and especially early on, it's really just like almost a week in the life kind of thing, and it's not even about. There's a wedding, and the singer shows up, and let's go find out what happens with the singer and his business, and it's just kind of like the good hour of it is just laying foundation, but it's very much just like here's how they live, and here's how they act, and here's how they interact with one another, here's how they interact with the world, and
through these
I was loving it. I didn't even need to get to the plot. I could have continued to just watch that. Actually,
right? It's the tension that builds within the interpersonal relationships from each of these characters. This family is so complex, and it is to be expected. You're telling the story of a large mafia family, and everybody is connected, and everybody wants a piece of the Don Corleone friendship. So you have all these branching limbs to this family tree, and the movie takes its time letting that play out.
Pacino did a great job at when he, and he's initially the one who doesn't want anything to do with it, but as his character turns and comes back because his father's been shot, and he makes that turn to become his father, I found him to be very captivating as well.
Oh, what is it with men?
What is it with men in The Godfather?
Hello?
Oh, come on. Hello? Well?
Oh, what can I... Michael, come on.
The Godfather is the I Ching. The Godfather is the sum of all wisdom. The Godfather is the answer to any question. What should I pack for my summer vacation? Leave the gun, take the canoe. What day of the week is it?
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday.
The answer to your question is go to the mattresses.
Go to the mattresses.
All right. Just trying to figure out how to seg into a You've Got Mail conversation. Maybe that's it. Hey, have you seen You've Got Mail? Anyway, so in You've Got Mail, there's this unspoken communication between men about, or understanding, I should say, not communication, an understanding about the Godfather. Tom Hanks says to the Meg Ryan character that she needed to go to the mattresses, and he had explained to her that was a Godfather reference, and she brings it up with her boyfriend at the time, who's played by Grant Kinnear, that, you know, she needs to go to the mattresses, and he makes, the Godfather, like, you know, of course it's the Godfather. I think that speaks to the nature of the Godfather, sort of that man's movie, what being a man means. Like, there's some sort of extra textual projection onto men everywhere, that this is an essential film.
Now you're making me actually not feel so bad.
Am I emasculating you already?
I don't actually. I feel like you're making me not feel so bad, because I do hope that I'm not that. I don't want to exude that kind of mentality. I don't want to be a man in a man's world. You know, I like the fairer sex and want to hear what they have to say, and want to see them and give input into decisions and in the world. And so there was an aspect in this movie that I did feel like, well, it is of the time, even of the 70s, and even, you know, going back to the era that it is. Was it like 45 to 55 is kind of the era it takes place in?
Post World War II.
But yeah, so, you know, it isn't. We've come a long way, I hope, as a society, and we still have a long way to go. And there's certain scenes where I feel like, man, the women are just not treated well in this movie. In particular, the Connie, the sister. Obviously not, you know, she's beaten a couple of different times that we know of, and that's not great, obviously. But then even at the end when Kay Adam, or Kay, the wife of Michael at that point, she's trying to figure out if Michael's killed Connie's husband, and she's sort of pressing him on that, and he's, you know, yelling at her, don't ask about my business, and clearly in this world a woman has no place in this. In fact, the movie ends with the door being closed on her as the boys go off and do their thing, and you know, so there, I wouldn't say that as I'm watching it I'm like, I wish I had my own little boys club like that. It does show what the world was like, but I wouldn't want to say I would want to be a part of that.
No, it is certainly a reflection of that culture. When this movie was released, it was such a I wouldn't say it was such a controversial, but it was a controversial movie because the Italian mafia championed it as like, this is exactly what it's like. Like, this is real life for us. And there was the argument that it was as much art reflecting life and then life reflecting the art. And it was hard to tell whether the movie had escalated mob activity. The Godfather as a term hadn't even been invented for the mafia until Puzo's novel.
Oh.
And in thinking of it as a man's film, it is sort of an odd consideration. We place that in this echelon of testosterone films because it really is all about the men. The women are adornments. They are merely there to serve.
Or at best, they're there to be protected.
Right. So there is a certain amount of sympathy directed towards those characters. So it's not championing this behavior. So as it's been catapulted into the realm of the man's film, it is also critical of the testosterone, the man's manliness of these characters. You put that alongside, like, I don't know, Die Hard is like the movie all guys need to see. It's an odd staple.
Yeah.
At least this is the conclusion I came to when I started thinking about the ways that Godfather has become enmeshed into our popular culture in ways like it is mentioned in You've Got Mail, and Seinfeld has Godfather references.
We want Kramer. He showed us how much he cares about Steven.
Don't ever go against the family, Jerry.
Godfather.
Godfather.
And as long as they're all kind of playing by those rules and adopting those roles, things are going smoothly. And there is something appealing about, boy, I wish I had this group of guys that we just, everything we did, I'm not talking about crime. I'm just talking about whatever that's not crime that I'd want to do. That we just, we just all were on the same wavelength, and we knew what to do. And I think there is something appealing about that. But it's still off-putting to me that you've got this scene where Michael's sitting there with, is it Carlo, who's Connie's husband? Near opening scene. This is the guy who's marrying his sister. Near the very end, he's saying, who puts you up to this? And don't talk to me like I'm stupid. Don't insult my intelligence. And then just a scene later, his wife comes in and she's asking these questions, and he really, in a sense, is insulting her intelligence. She has to know that, yes, he did kill Carlo, assuming it's Carlo. But she just seems to accept it and move on. Like, I would think, no, she has to be smarter than that. She just doesn't want to. She just doesn't want to die. She doesn't want to. I don't know. She doesn't want to be herself be put in peril. And maybe that's answered in part 2. I don't know, because I haven't seen that. Cinema Shame.
It carries on.
The two scenes coming right after one another, where he doesn't think his intelligence should be insulted, and yet he does the same thing to her. I found that interesting.
Mm-hmm. We touched upon the ways that it's gotten into popular culture, and you're a self-proclaimed science fiction nut, sort of. Like, how would you categorize yourself there?
Yeah, more comic book science fiction. Yeah,
well,
those.
The scene where Luca Brasi gets garroted inspired a particularly famous scene in science fiction. Can you name that scene?
Let me think here. I'm trying to think back to that scene.
You could probably work your way to the film just knowing that it was strangulation via who made this movie and who also actually worked on this movie in sort of a silent fashion.
Oh, yes. That would be Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Yes.
Yes, that was Lawrence Kasdan cited that scene as a direct inspiration for the strangulation of Jabba the Hutt.
Well, good that then that scene that was inspired by Godfather was actually a woman strangling the gangster.
Yeah, they're flipping it around, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for Lawrence Kasdan. But George Lucas contributed montage.
There was some like news montage or something, right?
Yes,
he did?
He did that news montage. A thank you note's cool, but I'll make you a montage.
And then which version of the montage did you watch? The one with all the computer-generated effects that he did in the 90s, or the original one? Did any of the Ewoks blink in the montage? Because if they did, then that was CGI.
Mm-mm. I didn't pay attention. I'll have to go back and look at it now.
All right. Well, maybe somebody listening will let us know.
They'll call in and they'll tell us, like, obviously it's this. You're not manly enough to understand what's going on.
It took me till the end of the movie to realize that Connie, the sister, is Adrian from the Rocky movies.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. It's like, oh, that's who that is.
Well, Coppola cast a few family members, so she got included as well. And Sofia Coppola is the little boy.
The little boy who was there when
the baby.
Oh, the baby. Okay.
Yeah.
I was, it was such a sad scene when Vito passes away and he's just playing with his grandson, and I was like, wow, that's pretty horrible.
It was. It's a traumatic scene. I remember when I first watched it, I was traumatized. I was like, I think I was 13 or 14 when I first watched The Godfather. I'm like, oh my God, it's terrible.
But it's so real. Like it's another thing too, where they don't really. He doesn't go out in a blaze of glory. He doesn't go out in style. No. He doesn't go out with like a "come closer, I have a final message for you."
There's nothing flashy. It really hits you because of the way it's handled. It's so sympathetic to this character too.
Yeah,
which I think is important to the film itself. The way he dies, to me, is as important as that opening scene in terms of handling the Don Corleone character. I mean, this is the important takeaway from The Godfather Part 1. We need to understand that even though Vito Corleone carries out his business with this cruel, blood-laden precision, he's first devoted to family and the extended family of business associates that he curates. The great melodrama of The Godfather then becomes the ways in which Michael both becomes his father and rebels against his father's business practices. I mean, when he says, I will never become my father, he's actually saying he is incapable of being his father. Vito Corleone came to America with nothing and built an empire. Michael grew up with everything and consequently has no conception of how this network of family and devotion to family actually works. Michael fails the business ultimately because he fails his family. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I can't get too spoilery for The Godfather 2 and maybe 3 Cinema Shame episodes that probably may be coming in the near future.
The listener. As long as the listener wins, I'm good.
All right, I think this is as good a time as any to play a game that I created specifically for this episode on The Godfather. Are you ready to play the Shamely Feud?
Ooh.
You get it because it's a shame. And you add the LY, so it's quite like family, but not exactly like family.
Okay, all right. Who are you channeling here? Are you channeling like a Steve Harvey or like a Richard Dawson? Please tell me it's Richard Dawson.
I was thinking more Roy Combs. He was my family feuder. Okay, so the rules are very simple. If you've seen the Family Feud, we asked a whole bunch of people on Twitter what would be the reason a so-called quote-unquote big movie fan wouldn't have watched The Godfather. We've got the top 5 answers on the board, and we need you to try to find the most popular answer.
Okay, do I have like 3 strikes and I'm out, or because I'm not playing against somebody?
We're doing
so
3 strikes.
Okay,
because you're like you're playing for the whole family, the whole shame.
That's right.
You're playing for everyone out there who refuses to watch The Godfather.
So this is now not only shame, like cinema shame upon myself, but I am now, since I'm playing for my family, I'm bringing shame upon my family if I lose. You've taken it to a whole new level.
Let's not bring the mothers into this, right?
Okay. My mom is
we'll
safe.
Transfer onus from actual blood relations to all the other lunatics who haven't watched The Godfather.
Okay.
So
my
say
family
lunatic in the most loving, caring, nurturing way.
I know, because I have seen The Godfather. I'm no longer one of those lunatics.
Right. No, you've graduated from the asylum.
Right. Okay.
Now, first guess.
First guess is hatred of Marlon Brando and his crazy voice that's hard to understand.
Let's take a look at the board. Survey says that is the number 5 answer. That is brandophobia. We'll allow that.
Okay.
Brandophobia.
Brandophobia.
Right. You've still got all your strikes.
That was number 5. Okay. I will say just a general dislike of mafia, mob, this kind of genre of movie.
Show me anti-mafia.
There it is.
Anti-mob, anti-violence. Number 3. Well done.
Ooh,
well done.
Okay.
You might run the board here.
I have a chance.
You do.
I have a chance. Okay, the question. So, why someone who, and we're specifically talking about someone who would be a movie fan who has not seen this.
Self-proclaimed movie fan who does not or refuses to watch The Godfather.
Okay. Godfather is, it was like an ex's favorite movie, and that's too painful for them.
Show me ex's favorite movie.
Oh, that's a good answer, though, right? I need somebody to tell me that.
You can't account for the people on Twitter.
Well, I know, but on Family Feud, like somebody will say something and like everybody's like, "Oh, good answer," and I don't have that right now.
No, it's true. I could get some for the next one. How's that? I'll just
self-validate.
Well, you can self-validate, or I can just take some clips from some old Family Feud episodes on YouTube and put them into so.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
We'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. All right. So I'll try it, and then if it doesn't work, I'll remove your family again.
Okay.
So I've got one. Especially that crazy Uncle Harry.
Oh yeah. I've got two answers, 3 left, and I've got 1 strike. I'm going to say that they. That they, at this point, feel like it might not live up to the hype. It's so overhyped that they just feel like they might be disappointed with it now. Good answer. Good.
Show me unable to live up to the hype.
Ooh, I was doing so well at the start, and now I'm choking.
It was a quick decline. You have to consider the audience, though. Think about channel my Twitter feed. Is really what you're going to have to do, because this really isn't a great subsection of the population.
No, it's a great subsection of the population.
You think so? Well, thank you.
It's great in that anyone who is on your Twitter feed, they're great. It may not be great as far as like the multitude, but they're great people, all of them.
That's true. Shout out to everyone that follows me.
Yes.
Especially the ones that I don't follow back, because they need a little extra coddling.
That's right. It's all about validation now.
Right. So you're down to your last strike.
Okay.
Last strike.
Too dang long. It's too dang long of a movie.
Good answer.
Yeah. All right. Show me too dang long.
Third strike.
That really is a shame. You started off with such potential.
I did.
So much potential. All right. So
it is a long movie.
It is a long movie, but apparently my Twitter feed is not put off by 3-hour movies.
So your Twitter feed are probably a lot of people under 30.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. Let's look at the board. Don't need any more patriarchy. You didn't hit that one.
I did not.
No. They are awaiting the Broadway musical. They're still waiting for the Broadway musical. They feel that's a better better vehicle.
I almost said that one.
Right, that's a better vehicle for the Godfather saga. Right.
You know, it's funny, if I can interject and actually give my friends a shout out. There's a new podcast called the Pop Culture Retrofit Podcast. They're only 2 episodes in, kind of like neck and neck with this show. And what they do is they take like a movie or something and they try and fit it into something else. So their first episode, they took The Godfather and they turned it into a sitcom. And it's actually funny how almost too perfectly it worked. So I think a Broadway musical is a fascinating idea to take Godfather. And I mean, I've heard the sitcom thing and now I'm thinking of a Broadway musical. Could you take Godfather and put it in different like media and genres and that kind of like different settings? I think it has a lot of potential.
I think it definitely has potential. I mean, at the core, you're still talking about the family melodrama, and that can be translated into any medium. Absolutely.
I mean, sitcoms are classics for family drama and family antics and hijinks.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. Will they? Won't they? Are they going to get together or not? I mean, Diane Keaton and Al Pacino, they're on again, off again. They'll be the new Ross and Rachel.
They would absolutely be that.
Yeah. I mean, you haven't gotten there yet, but they're on and off again for 3 movies.
Wow.
3 movies.
Spoilers.
I know. All right. I see my cue. They're telling me I'm strapped for time. We got to get going to the last answer on the board. The number 1 answer as to why someone that's a so-called huge movie fan would not watch The Godfather is... Bing. Bitches be crazy. Bitches be crazy.
Well, I'm glad that I'm not crazy anymore, then.
No. You've wiped your slate clean. So how did you feel you did there? Are you proud of your showing? Because, I mean, that's really all that matters. We don't really have a winner and a loser in the Shamely Feud. So maybe it's just pride. So do you
I think of the answers, and I think I probably wouldn't have guessed 1, and I probably wouldn't have guessed 4. 2, though, considering I just had listened to that other podcast, I should have thought of something along that line. So I'm disappointed there, but yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud of my showing. I have a sense from what we've been talking about in just even the last few minutes that whenever I go and finish the whole series, so watch 2 and then 3, I think it's going to be in my best interest to even go back to the beginning and watch 1 again, or maybe to watch the whole series again, because it seems to me like there is such a complete package in all 3 that there's stuff that must be set up in 1 that gets paid off later on that I would have a greater appreciation for having seen it all to go back and watch again the first movie.
There are a great many parallels drawn. I mean, you've obviously got, even within 1, you've got the Don Vito parallel with Michael, because at the end he assumes control and you're already comparing the 2.
Yeah.
And then 2 goes back to Don Vito's arrival and how he assumes the role of Godfather.
Right.
When 3 comes around, you're dealing with the deconstruction of the family, what Michael has done wrong, how he has corrupted the morals and principles that were set out in the original one by Don Vito. And then as he realizes his failures and he feels that he is incapable of fixing it, or of fixing the family, of fixing what he's done wrong, he turns it over to someone who is not even a true Corleone, in order to keep the family going, because he believes that's the best chance for the family's survival. So it comes to the point where it's the deconstruction of the Corleone family, because Michael has destroyed the actual familial structure through his actions. Not that he was a terrible businessman. He put that first. And in putting that first and undermining Don Vito's beliefs that family came first, that is what causes the destruction. So, something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't listen to what people say about Godfather 3. There's a lot of negativity, and I will tell you that just ignore it. Go in fresh and don't let the naysayers naysay.
I will do my best to be as fresh as possible.
I do want to read some of my favorite Amazon or IMDb reviews, because if there's one thing that's good for a quick laugh, it's just terrible reviews on Amazon.
So these are people who...
These are people who have apparently watched The Godfather and made a point to leave their unfiltered thoughts on the internet for all to see. And
so it's all fair game. It's all out there. It's all
out there.
Yeah.
It's out there for us to make fun of. They do this to themselves.
Okay.
This is actually the latest review on Amazon for The Godfather.
Oh, I hope it's not mine.
I don't think so, unless I don't understand the no one here, but chickens, that connection with, but so the review is titled as in, sleeping. I fell asleep. There were exciting parts. After that, I fell asleep for the remainder of the movie. That's profound.
Wow. What time did he start it? I mean, maybe he started it too late.
I mean, if you start the movie late, I could see why that would be a problem. If you're starting like 11, which is usually a pretty good time to start a late night movie for average person, 12:30, 1 o'clock is a good end time for a late night, I feel like. But then I'm a parent, so I'm not hip anymore.
Right. But yeah, don't blame the movie because you started it at midnight.
No. Slow and boring was this one. That's all it says. It's just slow and boring. Waited 39 years to see this, and it certainly didn't live up to the hype.
So that's someone who had a cinema shame with this movie as well.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. God made no appearance was this review.
Maybe he wasn't looking hard enough.
True, because it's in the details.
That's right. And there were a lot of details in this movie.
There were. So, therefore, God is everywhere. It's a very spiritual film, if you want to look at that from that angle.
Yeah.
I feel like we've stumbled onto a new interpretation of The Godfather that we need to really dig into. That's
why it ends with the baptism of his godson. I think that's how that's all tied together.
We have just witnessed a revelation on Cinema Shame.
A lot to live up to with the next episode.
That's all I've got. I don't know if you have any final parting thoughts, wisdom for the Cinema Shame audience, encouragement for those that haven't yet seen it, a quirky sign-off that you've got as a trademark.
Well, if you are listening to this and you have never seen The Godfather, set aside the time, give it a shot. I think the other thing I would say is just as a whole, the only way you're going to conquer these shames is to just stand up and admit it. And as we talked about very, very much off the top, this is a big shame. This is a big thing. And I admitted it. And through my working through it all, I've come to the other end of it, and I feel much better about my understanding of cinema as a whole. And I think that's what this is all about. And so you just fess up. If you're out there, just fess up. What is it you're ashamed you haven't seen? Just put it out there and fix it.
Carlin, you're a role model.
It's the first time I think anyone's said that but me.
Well, it just proves to yourself that you were right.
Finally.
You were right about
validation.
Right here, right now.
Mike, you don't come to Las Vegas and talk to a man like Mo Green like that.
Fredo, you're my older brother, and I love you. But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again. Ever.
Cinema Shame lives on the web at cinemashame.wordpress.com. Join the growing legions of penitent movie watchers and submit your 2017 shame statement today.